All right, let's dive right into this explainer of the 2026 Miami Grand Prix. We are talking about two massive, completely opposite storylines colliding in a single weekend. Up front, we saw an absolute masterclass in driving that is actively rewriting the motorsport history books. But then, right behind that, we saw the gritty, sometimes ruthless reality of team politics and survival in the midfield. We're going to break down exactly what went down on the tarmac in Florida, how we got to this point, and what the data is telling us about the rest of this wild 2026 season.
19. I really just want you to let that number sink in for a second. That is the age of the driver currently dominating the most elite motorsport on the planet. We're talking about a sport where guys spend decades perfecting their racecraft and aerodynamic setups, right? And yet, the entire narrative of Formula E right now is being dictated by someone who, I kid you not, was racing go-karts just a few years ago.
So, obviously this begs the question, how on earth did a teenager conquer Formula One? Kimi Antonelli didn't just step in to replace Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion by the way, he completely shattered the landscape. The pressure on whoever took that Mercedes seat was always going to be unimaginable, but Antonelli isn't just filling those shoes, he is practically sprinting in them. To really grasp the gravity of what he pulled off in Miami, we have to look at the unbelievable foundation that got him there in the first place.
Part 1. Antonelli, the teenage prodigy. Let's start our analysis right at the absolute front of the grid.
Just look at this timeline, it's staggering. We're looking at a blistering 5-year sprint from an F4 rookie to the Formula One World Championship leader. In 2021, he makes his junior debut, boom. By 2023, he sweeps the Formula Regional Championships. Then he pulls off this massive leap, completely bypassing Formula 3 and jumps straight into F2 in 2024, where he bags a phenomenal wet weather win at Silverstone. Mercedes throws him in the F1 car in 2025, he snags a maiden podium as a rookie, and now, here in 2026, he's the guy everyone else is desperately chasing.
And you know, Mercedes totally knew what they were doing here. This quote from team principal Toto Wolff back during Antonelli's F2 run really hits the nail on the head. They didn't coddle him. They didn't let him over-marinate in the lower formulas for years. They tossed him straight into the deep end, banking on the fact that true generational talent is just going to figure out how to swim. And man, did he swim. Which brings us to part 2, making Formula One history. Because having potential on paper is one thing, but flawlessly executing it against multiple world champions under that hot Florida sun is another beast entirely.
I mean, let's look at the race. Miami was absolute chaos right off the line. The pressure was clearly cooking the grid. Max Verstappen actually lost the rear of his Red Bull, hitting the Turn 1 exit curb, spun out, and completely dropped down the order. Then bam, a safety car comes out after Ishaq Hadjar hits the barriers and Liam Lawson tangles with Pierre Gasly. It's a total mess out there. But through all of this carnage, Antonelli is ice cold. He manages his tires, methodically hunts down the McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and just makes the decisive overtakes for the lead.
And the stats backing this up are just wild. These aren't just fun trivia facts, these are monumental milestones proving we're witnessing a literal generational shift. Going into Miami, Antonelli had already smashed Sebastian Vettel's record by almost 2 years to become the youngest pole sitter ever at the Chinese GP. He's the youngest championship leader, and with his Miami win, he is the very first driver in the entire history of Formula One to convert their first 3 consecutive pole positions into victories. No way around it, that is mind-blowing.
So he cements this flawless drive, taking the top step over reigning champ Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And sure, McLaren had a stellar weekend, securing their first double podium of 2026, but they just had zero answers for the sheer pace of that Mercedes W17 in Antonelli's hands. But hey, while the front of the pack is popping champagne and making history, the midfield was, quite frankly, burning to the ground.
Part 3, Alpine's midfield meltdown. We are doing a massive whip pan transition right now from the pristine, triumphant Mercedes garage straight into full-blown PR crisis mode at Alpine.
This contrast really perfectly captures why F1 is a sport of extremes. If you aren't up front making history, you are literally fighting for your professional life in the midfield. Alpine switched to Mercedes engines over the winter hoping for a fresh start, right? Instead, they walked into Miami entirely consumed by off-track drama between their 2 drivers, Pierre Gasly and Franco Colapinto.
Okay, let's get our definitions straight here, because the online fanbase was throwing around some incredibly heavy accusations. Sabotage. That's the word that spread like wildfire. Fans were seriously claiming the team was deliberately obstructing Colapinto from matching his teammate.
In the hyper-competitive, data-obsessed world of F1, accusing a team of intentionally hamstringing their own multi-million-dollar car is about as extreme as it gets.
The noise actually got so deafening that Alpine took the highly unusual step of publishing an open letter just to shut it down. They flat out stated that the sabotage claims were completely unfounded. They wanted to make it crystal clear. Franco and Pierre had the exact same equipment, aside from a couple of minor gearbox parts in China, and they publicly reaffirmed their trust in Colapinto, basically trying to extinguish this fire before it completely derailed their season.
But fans didn't just invent this drama out of thin air. They were looking at the objective data. Look at the race right before Miami, over in Japan. Gasly drives a spectacular race, holds off Max Verstappen and takes 7th. Meanwhile, in the exact same A526 car, Colapinto is lapping 0.8 of a second slower in qualifying and finishes way back in 16th. For anyone following the sport, an 0.8 gap between identical cars on the same day is practically a lifetime.
So what does Colapinto do? Instead of getting sucked into the politics and the internet vitriol, he gets to work. During the 5-week break, he heads out to a damp gray Silverstone for a filming day. He runs his absolute maximum allowed 200 kilometers, about 30 laps, desperately searching for setups and answers. He openly admitted they had to get the blood flowing and figure things out. And honestly, to his credit, it worked out. He went into the intense pressure of Miami, managed to grab 7th place, scored solid points, and quieted down the noise for now.
All right, part 4, the championship landscape. Let's pull the camera back and look at where the dust finally settled after the checkered flag flew in Florida.
The ultimate takeaway here is just, wow. Kimi Antonelli has built a commanding 20-point lead over his own teammate George Russell. Charles Leclerc is sitting back at 59 points, with Norris and Hamilton tied at 51. You've got seasoned veterans, reigning world champs, and absolute legends of the sport basically scrambling in the wake of a 19-year-old who is running away with the highest prize in motorsport.
100 points, rocking up 100 championship points in just the 4th race of the season, visually cements how terrifyingly consistent this kid is. He's not just winning races, he is relentlessly accumulating points at a pace that is literally breaking his competitors' mathematical models. It is an absolutely unprecedented start to a season.
So I want to leave you with this to mull over. In a sport that is fundamentally defined by both cutting-edge engineering marvels and incredibly cutthroat human drama, which extreme is going to define the legacy of 2026? Are we going to remember this year solely for the unstoppable pure talent of a teenager rewriting history at the front, or will the relentless team politics and gritty survival battles in the midfield end up stealing the spotlight? Thanks for walking through this explainer with me, and definitely keep your eyes peeled because this F1 season is far from over.